So, I want to tell you a story that honestly sounds like something straight out of a movie. You've got a founding father, a kind of secret society, and this hidden formula that was the key to an entire economy. And it all revolves around a simple book that was denied to, of all people, Thomas Jefferson. I mean, just imagine this for a second. You're one of the most famous people in the country, a former president, and you ask for a book and you are flatly refused. That's it. No discussion, no, sorry, we can't. Just a hard no. What on earth could cause that kind of a shutdown? And the man who got refused was, of course, Thomas Jefferson. And get this, it happened in 1817. He's not even president anymore. He's this revered elder statesman, a world-class architect. He's working on the University of Virginia and asks the Carpenters Company of Philadelphia for their rulebook, to help with the construction. And they just turned him down. Cold. So that brings us to our first big mystery here, a presidential rejection. Why in the world was this little book of rules and prices so guarded that a guild would say no to one of America's most important figures? I mean, really, let's just think about that. What could possibly be so secret, so valuable in a carpenter's rulebook, right? Was it some kind of revolutionary building technique? A list of secret clients? The real answer is way more interesting, and believe it or not, it actually has implications for us today. And this is where the plot really thickens. We have to look at the real secret that was hidden in that book. Because you see, it wasn't at all about what Jefferson, or pretty much anyone else on the outside, thought it was. On the one hand, you have what Jefferson probably figured was going on. It's the logical guess, right? They're protecting their trade secrets, pricing, techniques, keeping an edge on the competition. But the real reason, it was so much bigger than that. They weren't just protecting a business, they were protecting an entire economic way of life. So the secret sauce in this book was something called standardized unit pricing. Now, this was more than just a price list. It was this really smart, transparent system for pricing out labor and materials in a consistent way. It made sure the customer got a fair price and the craftsmen got paid what they were worth. And this is a huge reason why the buildings they built were so incredible, why they've lasted for centuries. Quality and fairness were literally built into the DNA of the system. Okay, so a pricing formula, that's cool. But how does that protect an entire economic system? Well, here's how. That one little tool made something incredible possible. A fully functioning economy that didn't need banks. We're talking about entire communities that ran on what's called mutual credit. Now, I know that probably sounds a little out there, right? An economy with no cash, no central banks. So how did this whole thing actually work on the ground for everyday people? Let's just walk through a really quick, simple example. Okay, so let's walk through it. A farmer needs a new barn. Simple enough. He goes to the carpenter, who uses that trusty rulebook to figure out a fair price. The farmer doesn't have a pile of cash. Instead, he now owes the carpenter a line of credit for the value of that barn. Think of it as a community-backed IOU. So what's the carpenter going to do? He can't eat an IOU, right? Well, he needs flour. So he goes to the miller and essentially uses a piece of the farmer's IOU to pay for it. Now the miller holds the credit from the farmer, and the whole system just keeps flowing like that through the entire town. So when you zoom out, this is what that economy looked like. You had labor and actual goods being traded directly, all based on the real value they created. The whole thing ran on these interconnected, community-based lines of credit. You just didn't need a bank acting as a middleman, skimming off the top with interest. And you didn't even need a centralized currency to make it all work. It was a true peer-to-peer economy hundreds of years before we had the tech for it. So the big question is, if this system worked so well and was so focused on the community, where did it go? Well, this leads us to the final and kind of sad chapter of this story. The fact that this successful economy was deliberately taken apart. It didn't just fade away, it was actively erased. And the weapon that was used to erase it was the National Currency Act of 1863. Now, this was passed right in the middle of the Civil War, and on the surface, its goal was to help stabilize the economy and fund the war effort. But its real long-term impact was something else entirely. Yeah, the long-term consequence was absolutely radical. This act was designed to systematically destroy that local mutual credit system. It basically taxed all the local currencies out of existence, which forced everybody to use a single national currency that was issued by federally approved banks. In one move, it replaced an economy based on credit between neighbors with an economy based on federal debt. So you see, the story of Jefferson and this book he couldn't get his hands on, it's more than just a weird historical fact. It's a peek into a completely different way of running a society, a system that actually worked for generations before it was dismantled. And it leaves you with this kind of haunting question, doesn't it? What if the best ideas aren't always the newest ones, but the ones we were forced to forget?